Okay, so I wanted to give a short little testimony about some things that I've been through, like the patches in my life that make me the uniquely colorful quilt that I am today. Sure, there are more than just these particular patches that I've chosen to um, discuss. There are the thread and the thick, dense cotton stuffing and pieces of ribbon and some fancy stitch work. But this particular piece is about the patches. And I want to start with early on when I was still in the womb. So, one evening, my mother, while pregnant with me, was watching TV, a scary movie, and she jumped, hit her belly with me inside on a coffee table, inducing labor. I've been jumpy ever since. Then, when I was about 7, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yes, at 7. I was born prematurely and had always been rather sickly. And I had gotten particularly tired of hearing compliments for my sister. I'd be standing right there and people would act like I was invisible or something and comment about how beautiful she was, which she was, how gorgeous her hair was, which it was, and say, my mother would reply and say, yes, they both are. I, at 7, was sick and tired of being sick and tired and decided that I would become a hairstylist and took my sister into our bedroom with a pair of scissors and proceeded to cut off a braid that had been offset on the side of my sister's head, which was probably about here, with another one here going in the opposite direction. And I simply cut it off because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired at 7. The next year, I should have been going into the 2nd grade, but I was held back. They called it what I now know to be, they called it a learning disability. I now know it to be called dyslexic. At the time, I felt slow. I felt that I always struggled. You know, being a preemie, I had always been very sickly, rather sickly, not very. And things just didn't come to me as easily as they did to my adorable little sister, which further aggravated my sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I was left back in the 2nd grade, which meant me and my adorable little sister are now in the same grade. For probably about 2 months, I spent my second term at 2nd grade in special ed for 2 months. Before they realized that dyslexic isn't really a reason to be in special ed, I was actually in special ed tutoring the other children. I was removed from special ed classes and put back into mainstream, but into mainstream with people who knew very well that I was in 2nd grade the year before. Moving right along. I went through a series of abuse at the hands of my mother. I felt very misunderstood by her. After all, I was young and sick and the least attractive of between myself and my sister. Less smart, and always sick. And this frustrated my mother. Not the less attractive or less smart part, but the always sick. And so there were some times, some issues that I went through with abuse from her. Later on, and when I was about 12 years old, my parents divorced. It wasn't a shock because they hadn't gotten along for a very long time. So my parents separated. My father dropped us off thinking he had done us a kind thing, dropped us off in Michigan when we thought we were just going on a Thanksgiving visit. This took us into shelters. This took us into family members' homes that we had not really known, and more abuse at the hands of our mother. We'd live with her for a year, maybe a little more, or a little less. My father would come get us for the summer, and we wouldn't see her again for 3 more years. Because my father found the bruises on our backsides. And even though I was sick and tired of always being misunderstood by her, I never wanted to betray her in such a way and make her look like a monster. And so I lied and tried to hide my scars and our condition from my father. This didn't work. It didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. My sister told like a canary. She sang like a canary. This led us to live with our father until the age of 15, when my father had an allergic reaction to Bayer aspirin, prompting him to be hospitalized. During this time, they discovered he was HIV positive. He quickly declined. His health did anyway. They brought him home, or he came home, or whatever, several times, in and out of the hospital. I'm 15, and I am now my father's caregiver. My father reaches out to my mother and tells him she's dying, a dramatic plea, and she does what any mother does. She comes. She arrives at our home one evening, and I am so excited to see her, and she is frightened to see me because I'm frail, pale, and I've grown and yet gotten smaller at the same time. I'm just a very skinny girl. We write my father a note, and we leave in the middle of the night with our mother. The next morning, my father's found dead. And it's almost like he knew we were gone, and so he could leave. He'd been very sick for very long, and the doctors really didn't know how he was hanging on. So my father's in Georgia, and we're in Michigan with our mother. We learned that he has passed, and we try to cope for the next few years, learning bits and pieces of our father's lives, the things that you hold and you hide from children's innocent eyes, but the things that people now talk about freely as you begin to age. At 16, I become wildly out of control. I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm hanging out, skipping school, hanging with older guys. I end up being put on a bus in the middle of the night to Georgia with some friends who had grown up with in Georgia. Them and their mother meets me at the bus station. They take me in for a while. I bounce from house to house for a few years. And when I am 18 and a senior in high school, I decide I miss my family much too much and want to come back to Michigan to graduate with my sister. Oh yeah, the one who I was sick and tired of, because now we're seniors. I return home and it's not as I expected. Nothing really's changed. It's amazing how much you can fantasize a place when you're not there. So I settle in as best I can. I do little things, sing in choirs, join pom-pom squads and pep squads and things. I meet a man who's older than me. We get pregnant with my first son. It is life-changing. The skinny, frail girl that I was began to have a belly for the first time in my life, and I was excited to show it everywhere that I went, and I had a tummy. Ooh-wee. And when he was born, his smile was so big and his dimples so deep, and his eyes were like my father's, and I'd watch him night after night while he sleeps. I'm so excited. I don't even notice that the man that I have decided to give myself to and bear his child is less interested in me. At least it seems to be. But we spin around in this web of love and anguish and loss and grief and sadness and hope and disappointment and cheats for about 15 years. In this time, I have a second son, several miscarriages, and several disappointments. My second son is born prematurely, and I remember thinking, he doesn't know me and I don't know him, and we are never going to be friends. Your mind is powerful. It's a powerful thing. A doctor comes to my house and asks me to sleep with him skin to skin because the time that he spent away from me in the incubator, and I spent trying to breathe and get my blood pressure under control and do the things that I needed to do to get healthy and strong, we lost our bond. And so we needed to reconnect. Boy, was that the worst thing that ever could have happened, because we got connected and cannot be separated. And that's just what it is. So I have these two kids, Jalen and Javon, and a stepson named Will, who visits every other weekend. You know, sometimes. Still. When he is 16, he goes away to jail, and it's as if I don't know him. Like I've never really seen his face. Because I cry and I cry and I wonder, how did we end up in this place? He's 16 years old and he just had his first baby girl. And now he's in prison. How did we get in this world? I make a commitment to myself that I will never take a back seat in the life of a child that I love. And so I pledge myself undyingly to Kylie, my granddaughter, who I love. I spend every other weekend, sometimes several times during the week, spending time with her because I want her to know that she's important to me, very important to me.